And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Buccaneers Nation. Get ready to raise the Jolly Roger and set sail on the high seas of playoff football. I'm Musab, one of your co-hosts and the navigator on this electrifying voyage known as RBLR Bucs. And to all those doubters and naysayers who thought our ship had sailed, here's a message for you. Tampa Bay football is not just back, it's back with a vengeance. The revenge tour, as many have dubbed it, is in full swing with a hype 32-9 win versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And now our next destination on this revenge tour is none other than the Motor City, where our beloved Buccaneers are set to face the Detroit Lions in a clash of titans for a ticket to the NFC Championship game. Buccaneers Nation, 2024 is looking pretty darn good for us right now, am I right? And if you ask me, I think we are ready to create some more chaos. Now, speaking of we, I want to introduce you to the co-captains of this Buccaneers ship, the dynamic duo, as I like to call them, who will be steering us through the choppy waters of playoff excitement. So let's start out with, to my right, the man who brings the fire and intensity, the Buccaneer enthusiast and extraordinaire, Zach Blaine. Zach, how we doing, man? How we feeling, dude? We're in the playoffs. Absolutely beautiful win against the Philadelphia Eagles. Talk to me, man. And I know you also had the Bucs winning, unlike me. So
Yeah,
I also want to give you credit for that as well.
man, it felt great. It felt good to be right on that. I made a little money off Carter, so I can't complain too much. But realistically, it just felt real good. I mean, saying something that you thought low key thought maybe I was going crazy with our win, but it felt good for it to come through and make me happy.
I'm right there with you, man. I was not expecting a win like that, but hey, man, here we are. And one comes playoff time, especially our Buccaneers, man. We started to really change it up.
Yeah.
So to my right, the man. Oh no, not to my right, to my left. He is the maestro of football wisdom. He is a strategist in the war room of analysis. He is Carter Brantley. Carter, talk to me, man. How you feeling? Because I know
Oh,
you also had our Buccaneers losing. I think it was
did.
16-10.
Yeah,
So yeah, man.
yeah. I was originally a 16. I thought the Bucks were going to get shut out at first, 16-0, but I softened a little bit, changed it to 16-10. Turns out I was not only wrong, I was astronomically wrong. I was way off by about 22 points. So I've never been happier to be so wrong. That was fantastic. So much fun to watch, especially because it was against the Eagles, and those darn Eagles. Those fans, the players are kind of annoying at this point. The coaching staff's real cocky and all that. So it was wonderful to see them just put an absolute drumming on that team. Like you mentioned, 32-9. I mean, my goodness. Zach, I know you were expecting the Bucs to win, but I don't think I don't think you were expecting this, huh?
No, I think my score prediction was 24-16, if I'm not mistaken. So
Right.
it was, I was expecting a close game, one possession game at the kind of the worst, but I was, it was it was a very comfortable win, which I don't think us fans this year were necessarily prepared for or used to.
This isn't a thing. I don't think this has happened this year, really. Like, I think that Saints game was a pretty comfortable win earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But other than that, there haven't really been too many, just blowout wire to wire dominant victories. And this was one of them. And to come in the playoffs against the Eagles, who had kind of done the exact opposite against the Bucs earlier this year, it was really shocking. It was a lot of fun to watch. But the Eagles, my goodness, we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, they looked lifeless and just absolutely I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. But we'll start positive first because this is a Bucs show. We're not going to talk about the crummy Eagles quite yet. What was y'all's favorite moment from this game? Because there were a lot of really fun, just like Bucs fan things. It was like, oh crap, like what the hell's going on? Like David Moore is breaking his, breaking 5 tackles on his way to the end zone. Like the hell's going on here? So Musab, we'll start with you. What was your favorite moment from this game?
For me, once I saw that safety by Anthony Nelson, that was a kind of big thing for me, just especially with our defense shutting them out almost every 3rd down, 4th down drive of theirs. Just throughout the whole game, we were looking really good. And then seeing that, I was like, wow, okay, our Bucs defense is looking real different this game for sure. When it really mattered, of course, as well. So I have to go with safety by Anthony Nelson just because, I don't know, just – what we needed the most was momentum, and every single one of those big plays from David Moore to Trey Palmer's touchdown, and then even the safety by Anthony Nelson, they were all super hype, and I think that's what really helped us in the end.
Yeah, I remember watching that play, and as soon as the safety happened, I was like, well, that's it. That's game. That was kind of the moment where I was like, oh, shoot, yeah, the Bucs are going to win this. Because there was always, a little bit of doubt because, the Eagles are still a talented team on paper, as horrible as they looked. And anything can happen, it's the NFL. So I was still a little bit nervous. But, man, once that safety hit, I was like, oh, well, that's it. Like, that's game. GG. I still watch the rest of the game because it was a lot of fun, but I was a lot more relaxed watching the rest of the game. That's for sure. Zach, how about you, brother? What's your favorite moment from this fight?
My favorite moment was the Chris Godwin touchdown.
Really interesting.
Yeah, because it looked like Tampa was having fun at that point.
Yeah, it was a very YOLO pass.
Like Baker just fell back off one foot, tossed it up. It just looked like this team was having fun, and
for sure.
Truthfully, I don't think I've really seen that this season. So for it to be like in the most important time of the year, when it matters, we're out here having a good time playing football, like that to me encompassed like why not us sort of a deal. Like we could be there. Like we have the talent. Why have we wasted it so far? And that was my favorite play of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite, it's kind of a weird one, but Zion McCollum had a bit of a rough game on special teams. He committed a couple of special teams penalties. The first one, we'll get into it because I thought that was a huge moment in the game too. But the second one came later in the game, and they had kicked a field goal. They made it. It was 3 points on the board. Bada bing, bada boom. And then he committed the penalty, and then they went for it on 4th down, and they didn't get it. And I just thought that was so funny. I was like, bro, like they had 3 points on the board.
That was the point after, wasn't it?
Well, that was the first one. That was the first one.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll get into that because that was the tush push stop. That was when the Eagles had it inside the 1. So we'll just get right into it. How much did y'all enjoy watching the Eagles try the tush push on a 2-point conversion after they had already made the PAT and Zion McCollum screwed up for the first time, and then the Eagles couldn't get it? They had the points taken off, or the point rather taken off the board, and they sat it because at that point they could have taken the extra point, and they could have been down 16-10, so a touchdown would have taken the lead, all that stuff. But instead, they went for 2, which rightfully so. They got the penalty, and they got stopped. They got stuffed. So what was y'all emotions watching the tush push get stopped by the Bucs? Zach, we'll start with you.
First off, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Greg Gaines, who I feel like we don't talk enough about.
Yeah,
but just the way he just gave up his body, like the whole point the whole idea of stopping the tush push is you have to stop Jason Kelsey,
right?
Who is a phenomenal center, probably one of the best, top 5 in the league, I'd say. And Greg Gaines just laid out. He didn't care. Like it didn't matter for his body what happened to it. He was just gonna do it. Secondly, I'm just glad that the refs weren't paying very much attention.
Yeah,
because that should have been another penalty.
Face mask. Yeah,
I'll take it. I'm glad they didn't see it, but that was what was going through my head. Is we were one ref from seeing that away from honestly it probably going in. So, so I was happy about it to see it, but also like, all right, we can't let them get that close again.
Yeah. How about you, Musa? What were your thoughts when you watched the tush push become?
I mean, the tush push is so famous for the Eagles, especially them getting away with it all the time, and then the fact that we were able to stop them was just another kind of big thing for us in the game. So I mean, it was super hype. It got me super excited to see that. And I just think that on both ends, especially that on the defensive side, all those guys, they played their hearts out, and that's exactly what they did and that's how they showed it. stopping that push and the safety from all of it. So loved it.
Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we like the only team that stopped the tush push, and we did it both times, both games?
I don't want to say the only team because I'm sure it happens in other games, or at least I'd like to think it has. That'd be an interesting thought exercise for sure. Because not many.
I thought that I had read something up to this game where like Tampa was the only team that stopped the tush push for not a first down or a touchdown when they were going for it. But I could be wrong. I could be making that up. But I remember seeing a thing that was like Vita Vea is the tush push killer.
Yeah, no, I'd buy it because their success rate.
Yeah, I think I was just able to find it. I don't know. It looks like it's pretty effective.
Yeah,
but I think there are maybe one or two other teams that have stopped it before. But
right,
we're definitely one of the few.
A select few for sure.
Yeah, select few.
Absolutely, yeah. And what's even better is that the Eagles, they had a lot of injuries. AJ Brown was out. They had some guys coming back from major injuries. Darius Slay had dealt with a pretty serious injury, but there was nothing, like no excuses. Like it wasn't like they were missing Jason Kelsey or Landon Dickerson or Cam Jurgens or a different quarterback or whatever. Like this was just, hey, strength on strength, let's go for it. Yeah. And the Eagles couldn't get it done. It was awesome to see, and it was kind of a microcosm of the bigger game at large of just the Eagles just failing to show up and just looking disgusting. But before we get into all of that mumbo jumbo, I'd love to hear y'all's players of the game. I'll take mine first. Mine's David Moore. It was his birthday Monday night. What better way to celebrate your birthday than with a ridiculous touchdown where you break 50 tackles on your way to the end zone? And who would have thought David Moore, he's a practice squad signee. He's been around for a little bit. He's kind of a veteran. He'd been with Seattle for a while with Dave Canales. There's a familiarity there, and they brought him in, and he was just kind of there, but my goodness, he had quite a game Monday night. Obviously, the touchdown's the big highlight, so he's going to be my player of the game. Zach, how about you, my man? Who's your player? I don't want to. Yeah, right.
Come on, guys.
Just say it.
You're making the kind of game, baby. What he had 322, 3 touchdowns. Should have been 5 touchdowns if we're being completely honest here. So I just feel like this is one of the best games he's played. We've talked about at least the Green Bay game was another one that we said was potentially the best of his career. And I think that this one's right up there with that game. It's his, I believe, second playoff win. Like he balled out, and I couldn't be happier.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a list. It's very short of quarterbacks that have won 2 playoff games with 2 different teams.
Yeah.
So that's really super impressive for him. I'd say his best game as a Buck for sure, probably his career. Really phenomenal job by him, just kind of picking apart an Eagles defense that just looked listless and lifeless and just like they didn't want to be there. So he took full advantage.
They were ready to go home, and Baker just kind of made it worse for him.
Yeah, he just kind of guided. He was like the host, just kind of guiding someone to their table, which in the Eagles' case, their table is out of the NFL season. But Musab, how about you? Who's your player of the game?
Yeah, I'm with Zach. I'm going Baker Mayfield as well. We've seen the good Baker. We've seen the bad Baker. And when it mattered the most, he balled out for sure. A lot of haters still out there saying maybe, he's not our guy or something. But honestly, I think he is. I'm starting to really, really like him. I don't know as much as Zach, but no, seriously though, I don't know. I've said it before, and many probably agree with me. He's got that kind of dog in him. Okay, he is a fighter. He's got that grit, and I think now, I think he's finally started to really click with Dave Canales' offense. So, and he's a natural born leader. I totally love the guy. I think when everything works well with the rest of the guys, I think for him, the chemistry is just off the charts. So, and yeah, he should have had like 5 touchdowns for sure. This would have been even a more heroic game by him if, some people made some catches, but oh well.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Kate, what are you going to do?
Down pass and Yeah, it was tough to watch for sure. But hey, the Bucs won, and Baker played his butt off. Really phenomenal performances all around. Baker probably the most important one. But moving from a bit of a big picture perspective for the Bucs specifically, Todd Bowles. I mean, my goodness, we had been talking about firing him. We had been talking about the Bucs looking for a replacement and all that stuff. But now, I mean, he's got 2 straight division titles under his belt as a Bucs head coach, and now he's got a playoff victory. And it's not exactly a huge upset, but they weren't favored. The Bucs were technically underdogs in this game. So is Todd Bowles' job officially like really, really safe in your eyes? Musab, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Todd Bowles' job security?
I think it's safe. I don't know if I want to just emphasize on really, really safe either,
Right.
but
No, I get you. Fair enough.
I don't think, yeah, no, but yeah, it's just hard to think about, having many excuses to get rid of the guy. There's always going to be haters out there saying no, we should still get rid of him, but it's got to be like a unanimous decision by the whole world and by the office to say, okay, you know what, we got to let this guy go, and there's absolutely no chance of it happening now based on what he's done for us.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can't let a guy go after this kind of performance and after these 2 consecutive years of unmitigated, well, not unmitigated, but relative success, relative to the division, relative to Bucs franchise history. There aren't any other coaches that can say they've won consecutive division titles in Bucs history. So to let a guy go after that it would be very, very silly and very unprecedented. But Zach, I see you shaking your head. Maybe you disagree?
No, I mean he's safe. Like he's not going anywhere. But
Right.
this year, I give him credit. He corrected a ship that was at least nothing was snowballing on, so we're good.
For sure.
But I feel like we're putting too much weight into. Well, he's won 2 consecutive NFC Souths. He also won that with an 8-9 record. Like you were below 500 to win your first one. So generally, coaches with below 500 records aren't good coaches. So it's one of those things where it just feels like now that we've got a competent, maybe competent offensive coordinator, there's some games that I've questioned it still.
Right.
But I feel like the coordinators play a big part in also leading the team.
Of course.
And I'm just not sold on Todd Bowles. I probably never will be, but he did come out and say today that I think it was today, that he's not going to coach till he's 70. So, I mean, at worst, we got another 10 years with him.
Right. And, if they come out and have a stinker of a season at any point, they could very quickly move on because, like you said, they have those kind of, I don't want to say excuses or reasons, but they've got those things in their back pocket. They can say, hey, you won the division, but good God, this is a horrible division. Like you'd have to be doing a really crappy job to not win this division. Him and Dennis Allen are the only 2. Half the division's coaches have already been fired or let go. So, yeah, I'm with you a little bit, but I also, it's like it's that weird process versus results kind of thing. Like how the Bucs have gotten here, it hasn't looked pretty, but they're here. They're in the division game. I get it. It's not all on Bowles. Dave Canales has been really good, but that defense has been really, really phenomenal over the past few weeks, and that's Todd Bowles' thing, right? Like that's
over the last 7 games, the defense has been solid. Like
sure.
no hate on Todd Bowles for that. I think he's a solid defensive coordinator. Our offense, even on our little, we won 6 of our last 7 or something along those lines. Right. Even on that stretch, our offense didn't look great.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
So it's like as a head coach, even though Canales is your offensive coordinator, as our head coach, I'm kind of probably contradicting myself when I say the coordinators lead the way as well.
Right.
But you've got to be able to make those corrections. Like at the end of the day, you are the head guy. So while your coordinators might help steer the ship, you're the one that's pointing them in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I get you.
Like he's not bad, but he's not good. Like he's just
mediocre,
mid. Like it's a weird place because he does get us to the playoffs. Like
yeah.
So we're there. Like to say we fired a playoff coach sounds crazy, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, every once in a while. They did it with Dungy all those years ago.
Yeah,
I think the big difference is, obviously that's a tough comparison because Dungy was coaching a roster that eventually won the Super Bowl. I don't think this roster wins the Super Bowl next year if Todd Bowles gets fired. But I don't know. I don't know. It's tough to have a defensive-minded coach nowadays because
Yeah.
David Malice is getting interviews already. I mean, he's getting an interview with Carolina. So if he goes, then the Bucs have to replace an offensive coordinator, and then you're kind of going up shit's creek, so to speak, because I don't know. Then you've got to install a new offense, another year, another new offense. That's tough too.
Another new coordinator for Baker.
Right? Yeah.
Had eight in his 6 seasons. So
yeah, brutal, absolutely nasty. But yeah, that was something that I thought about was Todd Bowles' job security throughout this game. His stock was going up because that defense looked really, really good. But on the opposite side, the Eagles looked that bad. And Musab, were you shocked to see the Eagles come out and just look like that, or were you kind of like, yeah, with how they've been playing, this makes sense?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I was like, okay, I mean, they're definitely going downhill for sure, but
Right.
I wasn't expecting them to be that bad. But I was at one point, when we were up 10-0, I was like, okay, maybe this is where the Eagles kind of catch up a little bit, but they weren't really answering anything for us or for themselves. And then I don't know. I mean, honestly, our defense just absolutely shut them out. And this defense has also had some bad games. So if it was a bad game or something, I feel like the Eagles it would have been a whole different result for sure. But I mean, we were just so dominant on those third down and fourth downs that they weren't able to do anything. So it was surprising for sure. I think the big thing was that the defense just balled out that much was a big surprise for me. And because of that, I guess, the Eagles were able to do nothing.
Yeah. How about you, Zach? Were you kind of shocked to see the Eagles? I mean, I know we've kind of already talked about it, but
yeah, but last week we had talked about it, and I said I've never seen a team kind of correct the ship in 1 week, and there was no signs of them improving. So when I saw that AJ Brown was out, I kind of expected us to have a better game than we did the first time we met up. But did I expect to hold DeAndre Swift to 34 yards? Did I expect for them to only score 1 touchdown? Like, no, I expected it to be much closer. And I think right about the safety is when I kind of started feeling confident. Like, okay, we're good. So I don't know that I'd say I expected them to be this bad, but yeah, it felt good, man. It felt
It did, and it's weird because the Eagles have been kind of likable the past few years with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I didn't mind the Eagles most of the time. Screw the Eagles; they're annoying. Their fan base is one of the worst in sports. But this year they've kind of torpedoed with their likability, at least in my mind. At least I don't want to speak for anyone else. So yeah, I was kind of happy to see them lose. They were my Super Bowl pick at the beginning of the year, and now it's like, oh God, they just make me nauseous, So I don't know. It was really fun to watch them go down in such a spectacular fashion.
Almost as fun as watching the Cowboys go down.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't go there. It wasn't quite that much fun, but it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was like here's the Cowboys losing yet again, and then here's the Eagles losing.
I might get a little more.
A little bit further, I'll give you that.
Yeah, for sure. But it's definitely up there.
And then I'll probably say what tops that is here's for the Cowboys and Eagles fans fighting over who's going to win, and neither of them ending up with a win.
That's right. The constant bickering. Oh, Dak's an elite QB, Jalen Hurts is trash, or all that stuff. And now they're both sitting at home watching the rest of the NFL play meaningful football. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely a beautiful thing. But another beautiful thing, if you're looking to celebrate the Eagles and Cowboys being that bad by donning some fire Tampa Bay gear, definitely head to shop.rblrsports.com. We've got Rays stuff, Lightning stuff, Rowdy stuff, as well as obviously the Bucs. If you're looking to celebrate the Bucs winning a playoff game, that unfortunately that hasn't happened a whole lot in the franchise's history. So when it does, hey, live it up. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to give you a promo code to celebrate just that very fact. It's Cannons, Cannons. Type that bad boy in, and you'll get 10% off your whole entire order. So definitely check us out there. We've got some really, really cool stuff on there, and celebrate a Bucs victory. But after that shameless shot plug, we are going to move on to some around the division kind of things. I know that the NFC South is not in the playoffs anymore, and it's the playoffs. Why aren't y'all talking about this? But the Falcons made some kind of big news this week. They interviewed Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick. They have a coaching vacancy after firing Arthur Smith after a very weird season, to say the least. We got to witness it pretty much firsthand. So what are y'all's thoughts on this? I mean, do you think who would you rather have, Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh? And then do you think it makes that much of a difference for the Falcons? Because it's still the Falcons. Zach, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this? Oh, Zach, you're muted, big dog.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself. My bad.
He just got so excited. He was like,
"Yeah,
oh,
right." It's a tough one because the name Bill Belichick, like, that's a whole coach. I'm not taking anything away from him. He lost Brady. His team went to shit. It did. It was one of the worst teams in football this year, and they've progressively kind of gotten worse. Do I think he knows football? Yes. I think that the NFL times have kind of passed him by. Like, I think that this is going to sound like I'm hating on the players, but like the players are not as
they're not as receptive to the Patriots.
Yeah, they're not as, like back in the day, I walked uphill both ways to school. Like, that's not the players now. They're a little bit softer. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how it is. And I think that Belichick has not been able to transform into a player's coach. He'll always be he's a coach's coach. Like, that's just what he is. So in my mind, I'm taking Harbaugh over Belichick, especially with a team that has offensive weapons like Atlanta has, because I think that he can do more with them. If it's Belichick in that position, he's probably going to trade all of them for a third-round pick and draft some kicker or safety. Like, it's just that's what Belichick does.
Right.
My dad's a New England fan. I've dealt with it my whole life, so it's one of those things where I'm like, the name Belichick is going to put, I think, butts in the seats, but I think the smart thing to do is go Harbaugh or neither.
Someone else. Right. Okay. Yeah. The third party, take the field.
Exactly.
Okay, I feel you. I'm with you. I'll give my thoughts or a little counter argument in a little bit, but Musab, I want to hear your thoughts first. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, to be honest, for me, I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Word.
I guess
maybe, I like that.
Maybe I'll probably just lean a little bit towards Jim Harbaugh just because I don't think Belichick means anything at this point. Just as Zach said, I mean, I don't think he's really good at working on projects. This Patriots team after the Brady era was a project, and he had a couple years in, he failed big time. So I don't think anything special is going to come out of the Falcons if he were to be the head coach. And that's really about it, though. I mean,
quarterback at what do they got? Pick 8.
Yeah,
quarterback at 8. Like, this team could be a little bit better with a quarterback.
Sure, yeah, maybe a little bit. It's still the Falcons, though. You still always have to take that into consideration. But I'm kind of in the middle. I strongly dislike Jim Harbaugh. He seems like just a huge.
I like him.
I don't know. The cheating scandal at Michigan was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me. Like, they're the Astros of football now in my mind.
They didn't know about it. He didn't know.
For sure, bro. Just like AJ Hinch, just like John Lundgau or whatever the hell the Astros GM's name was. Anyways, I won't get started on that. But I do think it's interesting because Bill Belichick was the GM of the Patriots as well. So he's making personnel decisions. If you're able to strip that from him, if you're able to say, hey, man, because his draft's garbage. The Patriots, awful. I mean, good gracious. And the personnel decisions he was making, free agency trades, all that stuff, just terrible, not working out. I mean, Sony Michel, N'Keal Harry, Mac Jones, you can go down the list of first round picks that have just been busts. And, whether that's player development or draft decisions, regardless of the reasoning, it didn't work out. So I would hope that the Falcons, regardless of who they choose, would have the smarts to say, hey, man, we're happy to have you as a coach, but no more GM for you. No, sir. We got control over the roster. So I think that's a huge factor as well. Also, I'm scared of John Harbaugh picking J.J. McCarthy 8th overall or whatever the hell that Michigan quarterback is.
Oh, yeah, J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, that would be bad because those two together, they're as much as I don't like Michigan, that was a lethal team. And I think those two together were a big part of it. So,
see, I'm the opposite. I think that would be a huge failure. I think that would be so funny. I think that would be hilarious. Like, I hope it happens for the Bucs because then the Bucs get to play JJ McCarthy's garbage ass twice a year. I mean, good gracious.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm not high on McCarthy. Like, I'm high on McCarthy and Harbaugh together.
Fair enough. That's
I'm not high on just McCarthy. I think McCarthy goes to another system and he's not as good. I think they have to have a system like they run at Michigan, and if you put him with Harbaugh, I think they can do that, and that's when it gets kind of dicey, in my opinion. So I hope they don't pick Harbaugh, but I think that's a smart thing to do.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to see. I thought that was worth throwing in because this was kind of big news. It's weird the Falcons are like announcing it as if they're like signing someone when they interview these coaches, but
their Twitter has been weird with this. I could not agree more.
Right. It's the Falcons though. That's how it be.
They got to stay relevant somehow.
For sure. But now shifting our focus to much more fun news, much more Bucs related content. Obviously, they beat the Eagles, so they're taking on the Lions. They're headed to the Motor City to play in a dome stadium, despite what that weird press conference lady asking that question might have suggested.
Yeah, I saw that too.
No, it is not the outdoors. They do not have to deal with the environment in Michigan, thankfully, because good gracious, it's probably freezing up there. I wouldn't want to have to play in that weather. So what are y'all's initial thoughts on the Lions? Like, what are y'all's main concerns with this Lions matchup? Because they played them earlier in the year, and the Lions have looked really, really good. They're an outstanding team across the board. They don't really have any really, really big weaknesses. They have a few, like any NFL team, but they're a really solid team. So what are y'all's main concerns with this Lion matchup right off the bat? Musab, we'll start with you.
For me, my main concern is the defense more than the offense.
Really?
I think that our offense, when things are clicking, I think we take off for sure. But I am worried about their defense as well because they do have guys like Aiden Hutchinson. But yeah, I mean, the reason I say that is because I think their offense. I mean, yeah, they got some stars as well, but I think the way our defense has been playing, I don't see why we can't just do it one more time or two more times to get into that Super Bowl. And I think we'll definitely be able to make it happen for sure. At least, I listen. Let's focus on this game. I see you smiling. I see you smiling, Carter. I think for this game, what we were able to do, like last game, is just stopping those third down, fourth down conversions. Locking up people like St. Brown, Laporta is going to be helpful us big time. Whether that means double coverage or changing it up a little bit, I don't know exactly, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think you're right on the money with focusing on the Bucs offensively, because I do think that there's an opportunity here to throw Jared Goff off his game a little bit. He's very much an in rhythm type of quarterback. When he's in the pocket, he's got nothing to worry about. He's just kind of going through his progressions. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Absolutely accurate as hell. But when he's thrown off, ooh man, it's ugly. And the Bucs are really good against the run, and that's something the Lions lean on heavily with David Montgomery, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously. But Montgomery's the real in between the tackles kind of guy. And the Bucs are, hopefully they're going to continue their trend of shutting down the run, which they did against the Eagles, obviously, which played into the Eagles' struggles so mightily. So I think that it's a good point to focus on their offensive production for the Bucs, simply because, Aiden Hutchinson could line up on the inside. He could kind of rush up the middle, and I'm scared of what Robert Hainsey and Cody Mauch are going to be able to do against Aiden Hutchinson, unfortunately. But Zach, how about you? What are your initial thoughts on this game and kind of concerns against the Lions?
I don't think I'm as high on their defense as you guys are.
Okay.
Hutchinson is a stud. Not taking that away from him. But would you take their defensive line over the Eagles' defensive line on an everyday basis?
No, but I would take their schemes over the Eagles' defensive.
Agreed. So my thing is, we did a solid job. I wouldn't say great job. We still got sacked 4 times, but we did a solid job against the Eagles with our offensive line. I'm more scared of the Eagles' defensive line than I am of the Lions' defensive line. I do think their linebackers and corners, well, their defensive backs in general are better than the Eagles. I don't think. I think that's one of the Eagles' biggest weaknesses. But I'm more worried about the fact that, yes, we held the Eagles to 9 points and they only had 34 rushing yards. The Lions' weapons are far superior, in my opinion, to what the Eagles had this game. Obviously, A.J. Brown, one of the best, but he wasn't there, so we're taking that out.
For sure.
I think you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got Jameson Williams. Those are 2 very good wide receivers. Then you got Sam Laporta, who is break. Well, is he playing? I don't know if he's.
I think so. Let me check on that.
So if he is, I mean, we've got Sam Laporta, who broke all kinds of records for rookie tight ends.
Right.
I think going to be one of the best tight ends ever in this league. I'll say it. Then you've got the 2-headed monster that is David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, now that they're using Jahmyr Gibbs the right way, he's kind of blowing up like we expected him to. And their offensive line is solid.
Yeah, so, one of the best in football.
To me, their offense is what we need to focus on. Their offense, in my opinion, to be able to win this game.
Fair enough, and I think it's an equal because both of their both sides of the ball are pretty solid. The offense has been more explosive than the offense has been better than the defense, but I do think that the defense still packs a punch simply because they do have, like you mentioned, Aiden Hutchinson, and then that back end with Branch and CJ Gardner-Johnson. Their corners are a huge concern. I know that
they got Cam Sutton. And,
Cam Sutton's been fine, but
all right, like nothing to write home about.
It's a bit of a concern, but I don't think it's any less of a concern than the Eagles secondary was. I have a really hard time believing that the Bucs are going to break 20 tackles like they did against the Eagles.
No, there's no way. We have to. The big part is going to be we're not going to be able to afford drop passes,
right? For sure.
Because we're not going to get those broken. We're not going to have a 60-yard touchdown with 4 broken tackles in it. It's not going to happen against this defense.
I think it'll even out on both ends, for sure. So you're kind of left with, kind of the regular schmegular stuff, and that does concern me a little bit for the Bucs offensively, just because they're playing at home too. The Lions are playing at home; they're comfortable. They get to chill for the second consecutive week at home. So I think that's a bit of a concern too, is the comfort level, flying up to Detroit, dealing with the weather. I know it's an indoor stadium. Please don't come at me, but you still gotta walk around in the city, and who knows, maybe a flight gets delayed or something because of some stupid weather stuff. So I don't know. I'm a bit concerned there as well. So, but what would the Bucs have to do to come away with this upset? We're talking mostly about what could go wrong, but what could go right for the Bucs? What do you think has to happen for the Bucs to come away with a victory here? Musab, we'll start with you. What are you looking for the Bucs to come away with a win here?
Well, I'll tell you this: we definitely got to not have any kind of screw ups, no turnovers at all. Hoping if we have no interceptions for sure, just because I think this is going to be a close one. But other than that, though, I mean, let's focus. Let's fix up those drop passes, for example.
For sure.
And then at least, I mean, on the offensive side is just creating more opportunities for the run game as well. Continuing to have, a little bit of a back and forth between the pass game and the run game. Because, listen, it's playoffs times. We're going against the Lions, and this is a do or die kind of game. So we need to be able to kind of use both of those kind of things. On the defensive side, what we have to do is just locking up 3rd down, 4th down conversions. We got to lock them up like we did against the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, getting off the field's huge in every game, but especially a big-time playoff game against an opponent that, no offense to the Bucs, but on paper is better. This is the Bucs are an underdog going into this game, rightfully so. This isn't the Eagles' underdog. They're an actual underdog. They're a legit, bona fide. Anyways, they're not as talented as the Lions. Unfortunately, they're just not as good. So yeah, the small things like getting off the field on third down, not committing any turnovers, that's more of a big thing. But it's definitely just as important as it ever is, or ever will be throughout the season. Because if you commit a few turnovers here and there, then that's how you play yourself out of a game, especially in the postseason. So yeah, definitely some great.
I think rhythm's a big thing for our Buccaneers.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if we start getting into the rhythm and we start messing up their kind of flow, I think that's going to be a big thing for us for sure.
For sure. Yeah, definitely getting Jared Goff uncomfortable is going to be a huge thing. If they can get a few sacks and make Jared Goff kind of move his feet a little bit too much in the pocket, I think that would be really, really big. Shifting around the looks, I loved what the Bucs were doing defensively, lining up JTS and Yaya Diaby over the middle, just doing some weird stuff, just throwing guys off offensively. That's what Todd Bowles loves to do. And he did it really well against the Eagles, and I expect that trend to continue against the Lions, especially if the Bucs want to be successful. But Zach, how about you? What do you think the Bucs have to do to come away with an upset here?
We have to limit the big plays. This Lions team has excelled with big plays. They've got some of the fastest guys. Like Jameson Williams is just a rocket. So we need to limit definitely the big runs, and we need to be able to. We can't let anyone behind us, as like they say in coaching. Don't let anyone behind you, and that's exactly what happened the first time we played them. Jameson Williams got behind Ryan Neal. Like, it's just little things that we need to correct from the first time we played, which I think we are a better team than the first time we played. So I think the biggest thing is if we can stop the big plays, we have a chance here. Because this team, without their big plays, is beatable.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, any given Sunday, this team is definitely beatable. This isn't an impossible game by any stretch of the imagination. But a lot of things do have to go right, unfortunately, for the Bucs. And only a few kind of have to go wrong for the Bucs to lose. So that's kind of the thin line that they're operating on at this point of the season. But there were some kind of interesting little back and forth jabs going around with CJ Gardner-Johnson and Baker Mayfield. I'm sure, Zach, you'll have some thoughts on it. So we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on the CJ Gardner-Johnson comments about Baker saying basically,
we're just a quarterback away from being
right. They've got some good receivers.
I'm like, listen, man. He was referencing Russell Gage in those
comments. Yeah.
He's not even on the team. Like,
right. He's not playing.
So I don't put too much into it. I don't think Baker put too much into it either. He's like, good for him. Like, he obviously doesn't watch film. And that little barb or the little stab at the end where he's like, I mean, he's a great player. He's played so long, or like he's played at a high level for a while now, and maybe he just needs to watch more film. So I love it. I think that it's bulletin board material, and I think it's exactly what Tampa needs. I think Baker thrives in situations where he's doubted. So I like it, man. I think CJ is an idiot, but also I do think he's a very good player.
Oh, for sure. And this is his game. This is his thing.
Oh, yeah.
He thrives in this kind of situations. With the Saints, I mean, we remember it very well as people who watch the Bucs intensely. I mean, there was that game against the Bears where he was just absolutely chirping at the Bears wide receiver. I forget the guy's name, but then he comes over and Jay Gardner-Johnson.
Was it Mims?
It might have been Mims, yeah. And then CJ Gardner-Johnson just looking for a flag. He's like, what the hell, man? He just punched me in the face. And it's like, that's what CJ Gardner-Johnson does, man. That's his thing. So, yeah, unfortunately, I do kind of push back a little bit. I don't want Baker to fall into this kind of trap where he's trying to do too much, because that seems to be a thing that Baker kind of struggles with a little bit sometimes, playing outside of himself. I know that's a cliche, but unfortunately it can be true sometimes with Baker. He just tries to do too much out there. So I hope that isn't the case. I hope he's kind of taking this in stride, which he's a professional. I'm sure he is, especially at this point in his career. He's no longer 23. Like he's pushing, he's almost 30. Like he's a grown man. So hopefully he's just like, hey, I'm going to jab back, but in the end, this isn't really that serious. Musab, how about you though? Did you find some humor in this back and forth between Baker and CJ?
No, I didn't really find it humorous. I just think more of it as a joke, just something to get you more clicks.
For sure.
I just remember, when I first started watching boxing, I remember my family friend told me some of these boxers just like to run their mouth so they can get more money and they can sign these
Of course.
contracts. This is the kind of same vibe I'm getting from him. He's just doing it just to get attention and get some love from some Lion fans, just because they were just going to blindly follow him like many do around this world. But I'll say this, man. Look, 3 touchdowns, 337 yards, 0 pick. Look, I get it's trash talk, but your dig should at least reflect present reality,
Damn,
So,
that's a
yeah.
bar. That's a bar. Your
Yeah.
dig should reflect present reality. My goodness, that might be a coming in an article soon. Thank you, Musab. I appreciate that little fodder and inspiration. Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely true, especially when you, like Zach mentioned, you're talking about Russell Gage as an active player when he hasn't played all year. But it's whatever. I thought it was kind of fun. Just a little bit of trash talk because it's the Lions and the Bucs. I mean, who would expect these two teams to be playing each other in the playoffs? Like, as good as the Lions were, they were pretty decent last year. I don't think any of us expected the Bucs and the Lions to be playing each other in a divisional matchup. So it's exciting. I'm glad that there's kind of some heat going into it. So I'm looking forward to this very much. And before we're kind of coming to the end of our episode, before we get into our predictions, I do want to get into our over/under special because this might be the last time we do it for a while. Unfortunately, if the Bucs lose, that's it. So we gotta make it count. So I've got some stats for y'all. I've got some fun ones too, and I'm going to go with over under on Rachaad White rushing yards. I'm gonna go with 70.5. How are y'all feeling?
I'm gonna go over.
Ooh, you're gonna go over.
Because even before the show we were talking, Rachaad White quietly had a solid game.
Very good, yeah.
He averaged 4 yards a carry. I think he had 72 or 77 yards, something along those lines.
Right.
I'm going to go over. I think we continue that trend.
Fair enough. Hey, I dig it. Musab, how about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh man, this one's kind of tough because I'm thinking he's going to end up just around there, just to spice it up. I'm going to say over as well. Just to keep us hype as well. Just because I'm feeling good, and I think the Buccaneers, they're playing their hearts out. They know it's the playoffs. They didn't come this far to only come this far. So I'm going to go over on this.
All right, I'll be the odd man out. I know I'm a huge Rachaad White guy, but I'm going to take the under.
What is happening?
I know we're switching spots. We're trading places like Usher or that Jamie Lee Curtis movie. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I'm going to take the under because I think the Lions' rush defense is serviceable. And I think that the Bucs love to lean on the pass a little bit because unfortunately the run game just doesn't show up sometimes. So I do think that this might be one of those games. But I do think that Rachaad White hits 70 all-purpose yards. I do think he gets the ball in the pass game quite a bit. But I wanted to make it rushing because all-purpose would have been too easy. Rachaad White, one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. So he racks up a lot of receiving yards on a game-by-game basis. So that would have been kind of a lazy out to give y'all. So I wanted to give y'all a little bit of a tougher one. So I'm going to go with another kind of toughie. I'm going to go with Cade Otton receptions 4.5 because he was targeted a lot.
He's targeted a ton.
Yeah, he had quite a few drops. We've talked about it a lot, but he was getting open. Got to give him credit. I mean, for sure, and they were inexcusable. They were tough, but he was getting open a lot. He still racked in quite a few receptions. So my line 4.5 receptions for Cade Otton. Musab, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Cade Otton over under for the reception?
I'm gonna go under on this. Ooh. I don't know. For some reason, I just don't see it happening. I just think that we have a lot of other weapons that we'll be using. I do see him coming in clutch, though, with some, big catches for sure. But I don't know, 5 catches, it's a little iffy. I mean, just because this Lions defense is much different than that Philadelphia Eagles defense. So, yeah, I'm going to go under.
That's a good point because the Lions have some really pretty solid safeties back there. I mean, we've already mentioned C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They've got a much better linebacking group. So yeah, I mean, maybe Cade Otton has a bit of trouble this week. Zach, how about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Baker loves throwing to Cade Otton.
He does.
I don't know why. He's not a good tight end.
I wouldn't go that far.
He's not a good tight end. He's Dookie. Okay, Dookie might be too much. He's not Payne Durham, but
Damn. Payne Durham under the bus?
all jokes aside, I'm high on Payne Durham. I could see him doing things later on. But no, I think it's over because of the amount that he's going to be targeted. I don't know what it is. Again, Baker loves to throw to Cade Otton. It's strange. I'm not opposed to it, I guess, if he doesn't drop the ball, but I'll take it. Like, why have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Trey Palmer and all those wide receivers if you're just going to throw to Cade Otton? But no, it is what it is.
Man, low on Cade Otton. Is it because he's a Pac-12 guy, not from Oregon State? I feel
no, it's weird. I normally root for
you're a big Pac-12
guys, but it's been multiple weeks now that I've seen drop passes or just not like on very catchable balls. So I'm just like, man, there's a few tight ends I'd rather have, I guess is what I'm saying.
Of course. I mean, there are better tight ends in the league, just like there are better quarterbacks or running backs or wide receivers than the Bucs have. But I don't think Cade Otton.
I wouldn't take any other quarterback.
Okay, whatever.
I'd take Lamar Jackson tomorrow.
Okay, for sure. Fair enough. I don't know. I feel like Cade Otton's like in the 15 to 20 range in regards to NFL tight ends. Like I don't think he's that bad.
I'll give you 20.
Okay.
Because I was going to say 20 to 25.
Okay, fair enough.
So if you're saying 15 or 10 to 20, I'll say we'll meet in the middle at 20, but I'd rather be in the 15 to 10 range.
I mean, of course, in an ideal world, but that's the cards you're dealt. And now, of course, after talking up Cade Otton, I'm going to take the under on his. Because that's just what I do. I'm a walking contradiction. I'm a hypocrite and all that stuff. So I'm going to take his under because I just think that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are really going to have a huge day. The Lions have some really tremendous safeties, some linebackers, but their cornerback position is thin and it's not very top heavy either. So I think Evans and Godwin have huge games. I'm pretty stoked to see what they can do this weekend against this Lions defense that unfortunately it's near the bottom it's not at the bottom, but it's near the bottom of the league in passing yards allowed. So I'm gonna go with the under on receptions for Cade Otton. I thought the Cade Otton one was pretty fun. But now we're gonna move on to our predictions. Who do y'all think wins? How much? Zach, we'll start with you. Who do you have in this game, and what's the final score?
28-24. Tampa wins it.
28-24. Got the Bucs. All right, Musab, how about you, brother? Who you got in this game?
It's gonna be a close one, but I think the Bucs. The way they're playing right now, I think they're going to end up with the win. I'm going 24-21 Buccaneers.
NFC Championship appearance from both of you guys. My goodness. Man, I just have the negative tonight, I'm afraid. I'm taking the Lions 24-21. I think it's going to be a really close game. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bucs win. They're playing really well right now. I just think the Lions are that good because they're also playing really well. They had a really quality win this past weekend. They beat a pretty darn good Rams team. I know the Rams aren't world beaters or anything. They're a bit old, but that was a talented team that they went out and they beat. They took care of business. They're riding the high of their first playoff victory in 500 years. It was 70 years ago or whatever Abraham Lincoln said when the last time the Lions won a playoff game. I've got the Lions 24-21, but it's not a super confident pick. I wouldn't be surprised to see.
Yeah, I'm about to double my money, man.
I know we went double or nothing on that bet that we placed last week. So a whopping $5.40 on the line right now.
Hell yeah.
For all of those keeping track at home. But anyways, we're coming towards the end of our episode. We really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you liked what you heard, hit that like and subscribe button, especially if you want to find out who wins this bet between Zach and myself. You can also find us on social media at RBLR Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Definitely check us out there. We've got some really cool stuff coming out on pretty much every day. So again, we really appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Hopefully we're coming back and talking about the NFC Championship matchup. That'd be a lot of fun. Especially with the way the season started and in the middle there, it was looking real rough. So an NFC Championship game discussion would be mind-boggling. I don't think any of us expected it. So hopefully that's what happens. But regardless, we'll hear from you next week. But as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.